Hi, my friends. Welcome to Sort of Brilliant, a show where the characters are made up and the sorting absolutely does matter. My name is Rachel.
And I'm her best friend and co-host, Lauren. Every other week, we're going to invade a fandom and determine whether your favorite character belongs in Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, or Slytherin.
We're the Harry Potter podcast that talks way more about any other franchise.
Here, we use the sorting structure from Harry Potter as a common language without supporting the author or her beliefs. As for the sorting itself, there's bound to be some arguments along the way.
But in the end, we're always right.
According to us.
According to us.
This one has no music.
Yes, it
It
does.
has Phil Collins.
I was made for loving you, baby. You were made for loving me. Phil Collins doesn't sing it in the movie, though. It's a cover.
Copyright strike. Copyright strike. Talking about the Fall Guy today.
The best movie
Oh my goodness.
ever.
Yeah.
in the history of the world.
Hey, how did they do in theaters?
Really
How
badly.
did this do?
Well, no, that's a lie, actually. What happened is that it came out at the beginning of May, and theaters did that thing that TV is also doing now, where they're like, oh, it didn't have big numbers immediately. Pull it. It's a failure. We're not doing season 2. So this movie was out the first week, and it did fine in the box office, but it didn't cover what they spent, I think was what the deal was, or it barely covered what it spent. So it didn't profit much.
No.
So it was in the theater for 2 weeks, and they said, put the cameras, and they put it on streaming 2 weeks.
Oh.
So it was on streaming, paid for streaming. Well, it was still kind of in theaters, but at a much lower capacity than a new movie should have been. So I don't know if they had kept it in theaters. I was talking to Miriam last night, who also loves this movie, like the same way I do, saw it and was like, what the fuck? And both of us were like, I would have seen it in theaters at least 3 more times if they had kept it for like a month or so. I already saw it twice.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot
It was very nice.
the word of mouth would have happened and people would have been like, oh my God. Yeah. And then they just didn't let it happen. So
Nobody
I say
wants
poorly.
to take time anymore.
Yeah, I say poorly, but I think that was the fault of like Hollywood and the studio, not the movie. So
It was very nice being able to immerse in just this one thing. I didn't need to see other movies to get it. It's not part of a big thing. There's not going to be prequels, sequels, I'm sure.
And it is actually,
it was
I
just
didn't
nice.
know this at first. It is based off a show from the 80s called The Fall Guy, which was just a TV show. That was in the credits when they play that song. That's the theme song from the show The Fall Guy in the 80s. Didn't know
Never heard
that. Didn't need to know that. Yeah, that little end credit scene, like the little Marvel end credit scene, that's the actor from the show who's playing the policeman. So, yeah. So it's kind of like a cool little thing for people who do know, but you didn't need to know, So.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that because like it just feels like now you need to you have to put so much time and energy into franchises, into and then like, oh man. And I'm a big fan of these kinds of movies because we grew up in a time where this kind of like one-shot movie was the thing. Like we talked about the 2004 period of like blow up awesome girly pop movies. And while this isn't one of those, it's still it felt of that time kind of. It felt like it could have fit there perfectly.
I was gonna say I appreciate that like this was built as an action-ish movie, but it's really a rom-com. It really is a rom-com. I guess more from the guy's side, but
which is so nice.
Yes,
I love that.
I love this movie, and I think like both men and women enjoy it because of that. I was going to say, too, as you were talking about our friend Trisha, who will be on the podcast in a few weeks, is just watching her and her family do movie night every Saturday night. So they've decided to go through the entire Marvel, movies or whatever.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and she's been
undertaking.
texting me periodically. Well, they've reached past Endgame now, but she's been texting me periodically. And when they were like midway through, when they were in like phase 2-ish, she was like, I was like, are you going to watch any of the Disney Plus shows? And she said, no. And I was like, well, funny thing, you kind of have to. It's like, if you don't watch WandaVision before Doctor Strange, you're going to be like, what's wrong with this bitch? Like, why'd she go off the rails?
Yeah.
It's like, so sorry about that. I think they're changing that now. They said that they were going to make the series more standalone so that they didn't connect to the movie. So you didn't have to watch them. But I don't know.
You're asking a lot of audiences.
Yeah.
You're asking a lot. And Marvel's not at its peak anymore. So you can't I mean, like, with Robert Downey Jr. coming back, I'm sure there will be, like, a huge resurgence. But I don't know. It's a different time. How long has Marvel been? It's been, like, since 2014, 2013?
2010.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long-ass time to ask audiences to stay that invested.
And to watch everything. Star Wars was kind of becoming that way, too. I was like, what? I don't... I mean, Star Wars, I guess, is
You know
easier
what
because you
didn't
can
become
pick
that way?
the time period. What?
Supernatural. We
No,
just
it
wouldn't let
didn't.
go. We just wouldn't stop.
No, it's and there was only one show to keep track of. Well, I guess two technically, but there was one season of one
They
show.
tried
so.
others, but
Yeah.
the main one just simply wouldn't let go of us. It was that was a lot. And 23 episodes per season, which I miss
I miss that
from
too.
regular TV.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Different times. We'll see it loop back around. Things are going to go back to
I
how
really
they were
hope
because
so.
people are going to keep
well,
bitching.
also with the
like,
streaming too, right? Is now just cable. So we're pirating again. I'm sorry, but
yeah, hell yeah. Not paying you for shit. But I will gladly pay for a movie ticket to something that is worth it. And the Fall Guy really did feel worth it. Like for a movie ticket, it wasn't that you could have just gone on a date.
Yeah.
You can go solo. You can go with a friend. You can go with your mom. Like
I went with my mom on Mother's Day. That's what we did for Mother's Day.
Oh, that's great. So this movie's good for moms. My mom really loved Ryan Gosling the whole time. The whole time I had to hear about
not
how
move. You
gorgeous.
said for 2 hours.
She didn't move for 2 goddamn hours, dude. Every scene. He's very attractive. Oh, he's very handsome. Oh, look at his hair. Oh, look at his muscle. Oh, okay. All right. I'm not a Ryan Gosling girly.
It's the only movie I've ever found him attractive in.
I think he's the best as Ken.
I would
personally.
I mean, I love him as Ken, but I'm not attracted to him. I wouldn't date Ken.
I think I was most emotionally attracted to him in The Notebook.
Okay.
And most physically as Ken.
Okay.
Yeah.
The bleach blonde gelled hair.
It's just a look, and that doesn't work on everyone. And it worked very well on him.
I was thinking like his big, like, I don't want to say breakout, but to the fandom girlies was Crazy Stupid Love. You remember that movie with Steve Carell? And
I was just going to push back that I think it was The Notebook.
Yeah, but he kind of, then he went away. Like that was very early 2000s. That was before Tumblr, was before the internet. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Crazy Stupid Love is an incredible movie. Me and George saw that twice in theaters. We loved it so much. It was so good. And then he's amazing in La La Land, but that's just
Still
like if you want to just get stabbed in the chest emotionally.
I hear it's very sad. I don't want to.
It's ow.
I don't think there's any reason for it to be sad, so I won't be seeing it.
It shouldn't have been that sad. But this one is not sad at all, and I'm a really big fan of not sad at all. Like, thank you for just entertaining me for 2.5 hours and making me laugh and making me feel stuff. That was fun.
This is our pitch.
Genuinely
to see,
funny too.
Well, The Fall Guy is now on Peacock, so if you have Peacock, you can stream it for free, or you can buy it on Amazon or the physical DVD. Big fan of physical media that they can't just take away from you at a moment's notice and you'll never see again.
Scary.
Yeah. That's another gripe I have with Disney. Like, if they just take down Kenobi, I'll never see it again. Well, probably somebody has pirated it by now, but potentially.
Yeah. I know, but you won't have it in the official capacity. It's nice to have things on DVD. It is.
Yeah. The internet went out forever because the apocalypse happened. Like, how am I supposed to distract myself from the nuclear war? I can't stream.
So, nuclear war times, you're going to be in your bunker.
With my
down
DVD
with
player.
Kenobi.
Yeah, my DVD player. My physical media, man.
Through this. Get me through it, Obi-Wan. He's the last one you want during an apocalypse to be with you. I mean, he'll protect you, but my God.
He survived a major apocalypse of his people.
Yeah, alone. He's not trying to help anybody else, Ravenclaw has. So for the Fall Guy, obviously we're discussing
Colt Seavers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Colt and
Jodie.
Help me.
Jodie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to say the actors' names so bad. I have to transition into fiction land.
They look like their names. So
they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we'll maybe sprinkle in, a little bit of the other characters because a lot of the characters are very funny.
Gail and Tom Ryder.
What an ass.
He dies at the end.
Actually, I haven't thought about his house at all.
So,
we'll talk about it.
So another thing, Rachel, that I have to tell you is that the extended director's cut came out. So I did watch that, and there are some added scenes that obviously didn't make it into the final cut, but they did add some additional stuff to Tom Ryder. Yeah. So Kevin, the fruit plate guy, and the drug dealer are on that boat when he's trying to kill Colt or whatever. So there were two of like the henchmen hanging around. And Tom has them killed. like they're murdered. So that's 3 people that he has killed. And then in the car when they're doing the confession, Colt brings up the fact that Kevin and Dune, the drug dealer, were murdered. And Tom goes into this whole thing where he's like, I was just acting. I was just in the part. I was really in the role. It's not my fault. I'm such a natural actor. People don't know what I'm like, not actually telling them to kill people. Then it was too far at that point.
Oh my God.
I was like, wow, this is a lot of addition to his character.
I would have liked a little more. I mean, you can't stuff it all in.
So Mary and I both agreed that the extended edition is not as good. There was...
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we talked about how if we had seen the extended edition, we probably wouldn't have liked the movie initially as much as we did. But that the extended edition is nice now to have like more of the characters, because there was way more of Colt. That drugged sequence was like extended 3 or 4 minutes of him being drugged. Huh? It was way too long, but it was also incredible seeing him drugged. Because I think in the original cut, he's very stoic about it, which speaks to his house. But
this was also the thing about DVDs too. It was like being able to watch director commentaries or getting deleted scenes and stuff. It was so fun. It made it like an event. You know, like you got to stay in the world a little longer. So that's good to know. I'm glad they're still doing that somewhere in movie land.
Isn't it like a special feature of Supernatural is how we learned that like Cass was gay I think it was Ben Edlund in a special feature was like, he loves Dean or something like that.
Yeah. Bless Ben Edlund.
Right.
But we must leave Supernatural as much as we don't want to and re-enter Fall Guy. I think we have to start with Colt.
Yeah.
I think you have to.
It's his rom-com.
It's his movie.
His rom-com.
It's his rom-com. He's the leading man and a really good
leading
one.
Lady, really. The movie's about him.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a wife guy or wannabe wife guy. I think he'll make a great wife guy when they wed. But it's
was them not doing donuts in the car
guy.
With their dog? Marriage? Was that not the wedding?
Was that? Yeah, that's a form of marriage. I'll give it to them. But typically when I say wife guy, it's very quickly the person or the male typically or male presenting is Gryffindor. And we don't think that's the case for Colt.
No.
So it's funny. We've had a ton of discussions about this because Lauren saw this movie far before me. And she really, really wanted to talk about it because it was kind of blowing her mind how it's like, how am I seeing weird, like a Gryffindor filter over this character who's definitely not a Gryffindor. And the second I saw it, I understood what she meant because she had given me her sort, which I trust implicitly. So I went and I was like waiting to see the house that she had put him in. And you can kind of see it from the jump. You can see it, but I was like waiting for a big moment for it to hit. But I was seeing these little Gryffindor things, like I don't know how else to describe it, but like a filter. It's so strange. But he does nothing. Like he's absolutely not
none of his choices, none of his reactions.
No. So he is a stuntman.
Sometimes he just
that's what he's been doing.
He's like I don't know how to explain it. He like plays dress, like he talks like he wants to be a Gryffindor, but there's no substance behind it.
No, none. And so there's these moments. So he's a stuntman. And he has this terrible injury while doing a stunt that puts him out of it. I can't even. Yeah. I don't even like watching the scene.
It's to his understanding by his own fault because he sets the rig. He like puts in his weight and everything. Yeah. So he's like, I fucked up. I broke my back.
Yeah. It's this very severe injury. So obviously he can't continue doing stunt work right away. But that's his goal, is to get back to it. And it's not just for like love of stunting. It's because his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend is the director of the movie that he really wants to get back on because he wants to get back with her. So that's his full motivation. The whole you don't think his motivation? I'm saying his motivation is Jodie.
No, yeah, I know. I agree with that. His goal wasn't to get back to stunting though. He was ready to never do it again. He
he needed to get back to her.
Yes. No, I would the only reason I push back is because I would say that his like system is a combination of like his workplace, in the sense that his workplace contains both Jodie and the thing that he's really good at doing. And when he broke his back, because when he's on the phone with Gail and Gail is trying to get him to come back, he's like, you know, when this happens and you fuck up, like, it's just time to hang it up. I think that was like the breaking of his system. Like, he did wrong. It went wrong. He hurt himself and he was done. And he hadn't spoken to Jodie for 18 months, had ignored all of her calls. So I think he was at the point where he was like the Ravenclaw version of depressed, where it's not like they don't like really mope or like they just are like nothing. They just do. He
recede into themselves.
He was working at the burrito place valeting cars, right? He was like just nothing, like nothing going on for him.
And he wasn't trying to be anything else either. Like what we just recently saw with Wade Wilson when he has his big like identity break. He's like very much trying to play the role of this guy, of this car salesman. He's stapling the wig on his head. He's like, I love you guys, like trying to throw these birthday parties, these like parties. And he's very much trying to be like embody someone else. Whereas Colt, like, and that's like Gryffindor. As a Ravenclaw, Colt's like, he's just going through it.
Empty shell.
The emoting from him is what really would have me immediately put him in Ravenclaw, because the unfazed, unbothered nature of it. And we're just coming off recently from the Deadpool Wolverine cinematic universe, I guess, when you combine them both. We just watched all those movies. So as I'm watching Colt, I was telling Lauren, he reminds me of Logan, because Logan's a very obvious Ravenclaw, and he almost appears bored much of the time by the things going on around him, and then he'll explode with rage. And I was like, Colt is like that without the rage. He doesn't have any of this like animalistic, like the anger. Because when the anger comes out, he's just like, and then I'm going to beat his ass. He's like, I'm just going to do, he's just describing it. And he's going through really traumatic things throughout this film.
Yeah,
and it's not hitting him.
You know, the scene where he's on the dock and Tom's like telling him like how jealous he is of him and how like he's not allowed to be in the spotlight, blah, 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 blah. And so, yeah, there's a point when Tom's like, so we pulled you out of that rock you crawled under, and Colt's like, oh, my life.
But I do think back to like his work's extremely important to him. I agree with you about the system. He wants to do a good job. Definitely wants to do a good job, be the best at it. But like once like Jodie will go, I guess like, so you keep the baseline system of work, and then since Jodie's connected with that, she like moves above it. So everything he's doing is with her in mind, like everything. And it's like really laser sharp Ravenclaw hyper focus, to the point that he's wanted for murder at one point, and running from the law and running from people who also want to kill him and frame him for this murder. And he picks up the phone and she's like, oh my God, Colt, where are you? Are you okay? And he's like, what, just sing karaoke night? I'm sorry, I missed it. Like he just wants to talk to her.
I think that's where the most confusion about Gryffindor comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he
I know, it's weird.
Yeah, when he first shows up on set and he thinks he's there because Jodie specifically asked for him to be in her movie. And Jodie's like radioing. Oh, his name's Doug, right? What's the stunt coordinator's name?
I think so.
Is it Doug?
Sounds
I'm
right.
look it up now. I feel bad.
We just watched it yesterday. I feel like.
What's that actor's name?
Sticking mad
From Black Panther. I've lost his name too.
Sadly, it's just Mbaku to me. It's terrible.
Wait, hold on. I'm gonna look up his name.
Sometimes
first.
You guys are too good actors. You're too good at one role, and it's unfortunate.
It starts with a W, I think.
Right on.
Winston Duke. Yeah. Okay, that's why I'm thinking Duke.
He's so hot.
He is really hot. He's really good in The Fall Guy too.
Yeah, he is.
To go see him. I don't fucking know what his name is on The Fall Guy. They're like yelling at you at the end because they're looking for, right? Well, Dan Tucker. Dan. Okay. So Dan, when he first shows up and Jodie's on the radio with Dan, like, is the stuntman ready? Blah, blah, blah. And Colt's like, said Jodie. And Dan's like, yeah. And she's like, do you say anything about me? He's like, no, she didn't say anything. It's like, get that look off your face.
Yeah.
And he's got like a lovesick puppy dog look. Yeah. And you're like, is this a Gryffindor? And then he doesn't do any, like, he doesn't, you can see it in the interactions that he has with Jodie. They're very well matched. You can tell he and Emily Blunt are really good friends in real life. They they just banter, but it's not, the nature of it is not flirty. Like the things that they are saying, and they're not saying it in like a flirtatious way, but you're like, wow, these people really want to have sex. I don't know what it is that they're doing, But it's very
they're connected.
Yeah, but it's very like little like smart jibs and like very fast, but not in the way like Wade Wilson is. It's not like yapping. It's not like pop culture references. It's not like anything like that. It's just very smart back and forth that they're doing. You see it in the car when she's like, "Are you crying to Taylor Swift?" And then she's like, "We just got to be Profesh." And he's like, "That's my middle name." She's like, "Thought it was Danger." He's like, "Danger's my stage name. Profesh is my middle name. I'm Colt Profesh Sievers." Like the whole movie of them talking to each other is like that. So he's not Gryffindor about the way that he interacts with her at all. No. Even when she first sees him and she's like, "I didn't approve this. I didn't approve him being here. I don't want him here." He's like, "She didn't approve me. I'm not supposed to be here. Who did this?"
He's missing the like bravado swagger, like that shit that you typically see in a Gryffindor man. Like when I think of lovesick Gryffindor, sometimes I think of like, okay, like Peter Quill with Gamora, because it's like pathetic the whole time, especially in the last one. I was just telling Lauren, we were watching the All Too Well scene, I'm like, if you had Peter Quill listening to his music with his headphones on, All Too Well, like sobbing, and Gamora was like, she would be like, "Are you listening to Taylor Swift?" and crying. He'd be like, No, I'm not. And Colt is doing that, and he just like rolls down the window. He's like, "Nope, it's just my time."
Yeah, but
he sit here. And
he is like, she's like, "Are you crying?" He's like, "Jet lag." He's like very clearly like wiping his eyes in front of her.
Yeah,
you're right. He does have a chance too. When he's with Tom's girlfriend, and she's like, "Why are you wearing that Miami Vice jacket?" And he's like, "Oh, I did that show. That was the first show I ever did. Like, I did stunts 5 nights a week." He's like, I drove a boat with my hands tied behind my. I got so good at it, I could do it with my hands tied behind my back." And she's like, "You're very into yourself." And instead of him being like, "Well, it's fucking cool," or being like more cocky about it, he's like, "Well, you asked me." So it's like, it's literally telling her.
What a Ravenclaw answer. He's like, you brought something up to me, and so I'm just giving you the facts back.
I gave you all of the facts that I have about the thing that you said.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, like a Gryffindor, even to Slytherin, it would have been like an insult back, maybe. You're like something like, "Hey, don't, I am. I'm like, great."
Yeah,
like,
I'm
no.
amazing. Yeah,
no, he's just like, "You asked me." I mean, like, yeah. And he's very like that the whole movie. It's like things aren't sticking to him. They're not like nothing is sticking to him, whether it's like physical fighting. It's these sort of traumatic things that would hit you and you'd be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I'm dealing with this right now. I'm so stressed out. This is driving me insane." Like, no, he's just doing things that are expected of him.
He's very...
and doing them really well.
I was trying to explain this about Logan when we talked about him a few weeks ago, where he would just like... we talked about that scene where he's with the kids and he like wakes up after being shot in the head and everything's on fire, and he just like picks up his beer and is like, "Time to get out of here." Like, he just rolls with it.
Yeah.
Colt is like the exact same way. He finds a dead guy in a tub and has gone into this hotel room where a camera clearly was, like, sees the camera and puts his like jacket up over his face. It's too late at that point. But he like does it. So like quick thinking there. But then later on, when they're framing him for this murder, they AI his face over the actual murderer's face. When they're framing him for this murder, and he's on Australian national news, and they're like, "This man is a fugitive running from the law. He's suspected of murder, blah, blah, blah." He's just like, "Damn, it sucks."
Yeah.
And then him and Dan are like, "Ooh, the bad guys are coming. Time to beat them up." Like,
yeah.
There's no like, what do I do? Like, he's texting Jodie, "I'm a pickle. I'm in a pickle. I'm a pickle.
I'm a pickle. I'm a pickle." Yeah, I know that's the part that really strikes me as the most Ravenclaw about it all. It's kind of like being given this task, and it's like, well, okay, I'm just gonna go with it. It's here. These are the facts.
There's so many little things about him that are so Ravenclaw too. So like when he and Dan know that the bad guys are coming for them, they're like, "This is the part of the movie where and then they hear them." He starts and this is different than Dan. Like, they both go to grab the weapons, but then Colt, you see, looks up at the balcony and he moves the couch so that it's where it would be if he falls, and he does end up falling on it. Like, he sets things up for himself. He's very smart. When he's captured on the dock and they start pouring gasoline on him, you see him have a moment of like, "Oh man, this is really, like, I really am probably going to die here." And you see him and he's not like panicking. And then he starts panicking and you're like, what's going, like, this seems out of, like, he starts screaming for help. which prompts the bad guy to go shut up and pour gasoline in his mouth. And then he shoots fire at them with the gasoline. So you're like, this is the smart. I never, ever would have had, like, in that moment of time where I am literally about to die.
And one of the things that struck me is like, so it just kind of encompassed our kind of like weirdness here about the Gryffindor Ravenclaw thing was, I don't know if everyone's familiar with, like, there was like a text post that was like, if you're faced with a locked door, like, what would you do? If you needed to get into it, like, what would you do to get through it? I'll never forget the Gryffindor answer is to, like, smash down the door. Like, that's the first thing. Like, and it's true. That's what I would do. I'd, like, bang on it. I'd try to jiggle it. Like, I'd try to forcibly open it. When he's presented with the locked door, he does get to that point. But first, he goes downstairs to the concierge, and he's super high. And he, like, tries to find a different, rational, logical way to get a key to get in, before he then has to just, like, smash his way through. So he does have, like, the
entire it's like context of that as well is he's, like, technically doing something shady.
Yeah.
To do it again.
Yeah. But, like, you got to get in, and what are you going to do? And I think, like, I don't remember what the Ravenclaw answer was right now. Like, on that weird little meme.
Probably, like,
text post.
pick the lock or something, right?
It's pick the lock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pick the lock. But you're in a hotel, like, it's digital. There's no lock to pick. So he went to get the card to get in. Whereas, like, maybe a Slytherin would, like, smooth talk someone to get a card in, like, to get whatever. Like, the houses handle things differently. And so when I saw it the first time I was watching, I missed a couple things because, like, just general baby stuff and things going on. And I missed that he did that. I just saw the hammering of the door down. And I was like, that was kind of Gryffindor-y. And so I'm glad I got to rewatch it because I was like, oh, he didn't immediately do that first.
No, he went downstairs.
Didn't.
The gag.
Super high, seeing a unicorn. Like,
I will say, too, the entire movie, he does this so well. And I'm just going to be frank. Ryan Gosling's a Ravenclaw in real life. And I think that this movie is not far off from what he's shown us. Again, as a famous person, he is a Ravenclaw based on the persona that he has presented to the public. I don't know this person in real life. Unfortunately. But he, like, the entire movie, he has this, like, really resigned frustration to doing the things that he has to do that aren't what he wants to do. Which is, and no. And it's, and, like, this is the big thing too, that's not, like, Gryffindors would be very stubborn and very vocal about, like, having to do this shit and being annoyed about it. And, like, and rushing to get to what they really want, right? Like, he really wants Jodie. Like, they would not do things right or well. They would be doing them as fast as they possibly could, which sometimes could be them doing it right or well.
Hammer through it.
They would be doing them. So he shows up and Gail's like, you've got to do this thing for me. You got to find Tom or whatever. And he's like, I don't really want to do that. I want to go sleep. And then I want to see Jodie. And she's like, you have to do this for Jodie. And, like, they play it up as, like, she's wrapping it in the sexy bacon from. She's like, you got to do all of this for Jodie. Jodie's going to lose her movie. Yeah. And he loves Jodie and he owes her a lot. So he's like, all right, like, really resigned. So he goes on this, like, mad quest to find Tom where he has to go to his house and then go speak to a drug dealer or whatever. And then when Gail shows up and is like, what's wrong with you? He's like, a lot of running around, Gail. Like, he's clearly very annoyed, but, like, still doing it. And he's like,
compartmentalizing is insane.
It's that, like, resigned frustration of having to do all of this. And he's not resentful or, like, frustrated. No. Like, he's fine doing it for Jodie. He's just, like, annoyed that it still exists for him to do. He, like, even with the coffee, he's trying to get coffee for the first, like, half of the movie because he's jet lagged and he's been working all day, and, like, it's a running gag that he can't get coffee. And it's just like, every time he fails to get the coffee, it's just like,
yeah.
And then, like, he continues with what he has to do.
Yeah. I have this, like, I noticed this a lot with George. He has a very similar way about him where I can tell when he's like, so if we have a whole day that got derailed by something and he has, like, all these tasks he didn't expect to do, he's just doing them. And I can see on his face, because I know his expressions, I understand his face. Mm-hmm. He's, like, annoyed by it. Yeah. But he's not saying it. Yeah. And so me being a Gryffindor, I'm poking at it all day. I'm like, why are you annoyed? What's the problem? Are you okay? And he's like, I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Just doing what I have to do. And I'm like, well, you should say something. Yeah. You can, like, vent about it. We can talk, we can complain. He's like, there's no point in bitching.
Yeah.
I hear that all the time. There's no point in bitching. I'm like, what are you mean. I love to bitch.
Yeah, it's crazy too, because like Colt carries this to the extreme when he's about to be murdered, and Tom's like, "What have you ever done for me?" He's like, "Die, I guess." Like that's what I'm doing, right? When he's in the car, he's in the car after Tom has supposedly killed him. And he's like, "Oh, what are you gonna kill me again?" Like that's the only moments of like real yelling we get where he like lets and then he's like done. Like he's like, all right.
Well, I also love that he starts screaming at him about the carbs. Yeah, because he's just like. It's actually not like you've seen this character get build up to a point of frustration where he's finally letting it out. It's not that at all. It's that he's actually pissed him off by not eating carbohydrates.
But he's also trying to yell sense into him. He's like, go eat some grilled cheese, and then maybe you won't want to kill. Like that entire scene is so great for a Ravenclaw because he's trying to walk Tom through why this is not a good idea in Tom's language. He's like, Tom's explaining like what he's going to do. And like, you're so sad that you're going to suicide. And he's like, we're getting lost in exposition. The suicide's not going to work. Nobody's going to believe that, Tom. You need carbs, Tom. You need your brain to function. You go to sleep. You wake up in the morning. You know, if killing me is a good idea now, it'll be a good idea in the morning too. Just sleep on it, man.
It's not the fact that he's about to die that's pissing him off. It's that you're doing this wrong. You're doing it wrong. And that's so Ravenclaw. That's so scarily Ravenclaw. Like, God help anyone who has like a Ravenclaw or like you need to get something out of them or like you're trying to piss them off or whatever. Like, good luck. Good fucking luck.
Them.
Like oh my God.
Even again, when he's in the hotel and he like goes to order the fruit pit and it's not Kevin at the desk or whatever. And he's like, I want to order the fruit plate in quotations. And she's like, okay, like, do you want me to call a room service? And he's like, I don't know. Is that what happens? I was just doing what I was told to do.
Yeah, exactly. Or like when he's talking to the cop, he's on the phone with Gail and he's like, the cops are at the window. She's like, don't talk to the cops. I'm going to talk to the cops. There's that like weird random Ravenclaw chain of command thing. I gotta talk. The cop is here. I'm gonna talk to the cop, and then he's really weird to the cop because he's super high, but he still talks to the cop.
He's on the nose.
That's what I'm supposed to do. Like I'm supposed to talk to the police officer. But he's very much like the embodiment of that one Friends line where Phoebe's like, "You people wouldn't hold up well under torture," and they're like, "What? And you would?" She's like, "I have."
Yeah. I would.
He's very that. He's that kind of Ravenclaw.
He does also do the, we've talked about this before. I love that it showed up where both Ravenclaws and Slytherins have conversations with themselves, but Slytherins will actually envision, like they have whole mind scenes in their head or whatever. But Ravenclaws just like do it. Like Nancy does it all the time where she like counters herself and like talks to herself. Colt very literally does it. He has whole conversations out loud with himself when he's walking into Tom's house for the first time. He like has a conversation as himself and as Tom where he's like, this is what I'll say to Tom. And then Tom will say this to me and blah, blah, blah. But he also, when he's high, has a conversation with himself too, where he has to run in front of a moving car to stop the car. And he's like, all right, get yourself hyped, Colt. You got to do this. Like, and he's like, oh, you don't think you should do this. You're just doing this because you're high. And he's like, maybe you shouldn't be such chicken shit. And he does that throughout the movie. Also, I have to tell you, in the extended edition, that scene is extended a little, Rachel, and it's actually, they give the unicorn more of a role. So you see the unicorn before they mention the unicorn. Or in the regular movie, it's like, he's like, when you stop seeing unicorns, and that's the first time you see that there's a unicorn that's been there. He sees the unicorn all the way back in the club, and then during that conversation with himself, he's like, you're just jealous because the unicorn told me to do it and it didn't tell you to do it.
You're talking to yourself, man. I'll never forget wanting to put Vision in Ravenclaw because he was talking to himself. Because it's such a Ravenclaw that they talk, the way that they talk to themselves is so specific. And it's, I've never seen like George do it. I've never seen one do it in real life, but I've seen it in fiction.
Okay.
And it's really different from how a Slytherin does. I always go back to Sam Winchester. It's real different.
Yeah. And also, even when they do, like Spike will do, but he's not talking to himself when he does that out loud talking stuff. He's like performing a play. Yeah. It's not, Colt is literally like just talking. So George might do it when you're not around because I feel like that's when
he might.
Yeah.
That's the best time for me to talk to myself is when I'm alone in the room. Yeah, no. And so Colt also does this thing where he like narrates the beginning and the ending of the film. And so I was talking to Lauren about it because Wade Wilson does that too, obviously, but Wade does it the whole movie. And that's because as a Gryffindor, he's trying to entertain the audience and himself.
He's giving you exposition.
But primarily, he wants the applause. He wants the laughs. He wants to do everything is for the bit. Everything is for the plot. That's not what Colt is doing. And this is not what a Ravenclaw does. This is not how a Ravenclaw narrates. They narrate like Colt. This is what's going on. This is me. This is my girl.
The backstory of stuntmen. That's what I am.
Yeah. And even when he's describing like his like failures or whatever, it's all just extremely factual and like, and this is where I am now. That kind of could blow, like if I look at it too closely, but I'm not gonna, because, you know, gotta keep moving. There's the next thing for me to do. I gotta get my girl back. Like it's almost like, so a Gryffindor is doing it because they really want a reaction from you and they really want like something back emotionally from you, and that makes it pay off. The Ravenclaw does not care if you're listening or not. It's not for you. Like, as funny as that is to say, because this is narration in a movie for you to be entertained by the narration, the kind of person, the kind of Ravenclaw Colt does not care. Imagine Logan narrating Logan. He'd be like, watch it or fucking don't.
This is the movie I die in. What would be?
Yeah. This is it. This is what you're getting. And that's super Colt. Like, Colt and Logan are so close. It's weird. He just doesn't have the explosive rage, but he also isn't a mutant. And he's not in like pain every second from the claws. And like, I understand why Logan has rage. It's almost like Logan's rage was like,
you know what else we didn't mention about Logan too? Like, it's not just the claws. Mm-hmm. He's got constant metal poisoning that his body is healing because obviously his bones.
Sucks. Yeah. I feel like his rage is manufactured. Like, I feel like it got put on him. Like, he didn't have it naturally. Like, we saw him as a child.
Right.
It didn't explode out of him with like daddy issues and all this crazy Gryffindor shit. No, he was just like, okay.
How else are you supposed to react to all of this shit?
Yeah. Like, and then once he's in constant pain, then all of a sudden, like, the rage is a symptom of that. So I feel like Colt is like the before too. He's just going through it. And he's just like, this happens. This is happening. I have to handle it. Like, when he's fighting with the girl in Tom's apartment, it was so funny because Lauren's like, he just wants his coffee. The man just wanted his coffee. And like, that's it. He is hand-to-hand combat fighting, dodging swords, knives, everything.
And he's like having a conversation with her. He's like, where do I recognize you from? He's really trying to figure out.
Yeah. Oh, it's such an interesting personality. Because he just, it's funny, like, there are some Gryffindor-ish things. I think it's mostly about the way that he loves Jodie, because we just see that so much in Gryffindor men. But for the most part, actually for all of it, he doesn't do a single thing that I would do. Like, if I were a stuntman that was trained professionally, blah, 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 like, he doesn't do a single thing. I wouldn't have done anything the way that he did. I wouldn't have thought of the things he did.
So he works with a dog that he's worked with before. And he treats the dog like a coworker, essentially. Mm-hmm. It's exactly what he treats the dog. Actually, in the extended edition, he has this whole thing where he's like, man, that was great. I love working with you. I'm so glad we get to do it together again. Like, he's like but it's really cute. But he's like literally just treating this dog like a coworker. It understands the French commands he gives it. And I
like that you brought up the coworker thing, because he strikes me as the kind of person that where like Jodie was happy to go out for karaoke and like drinks with the crew and stuff. I don't think that Colt would give a shit about that kind of thing.
Jodie wasn't
and I
there.
don't think that he cares about making friends or be like if someone was like, take the dog home, you guys get along so well. He'd be like, no, that's my coworker. No, that's not. We don't cross the work to life boundary. I know, but like but I don't think that he's he cares about what he cares about.
Yeah.
He's not interested in making like these super close bonds with other people or whatever. Like, he's not super betrayed by Gale. He's not even super betrayed by Tom. He's not emotionally deeply connecting with them.
And the way that he is betrayed too is I was going to point this out earlier because this is a big Ravenclaw thing. Like, one of the things he's like, or the thing I think he's most mad at Gale about is he's like, you lied to me. Yeah. He's like, you lied to get me here. You're a liar. You lied to get me
That's
here.
Dishonest.
And then,
it's wrong.
And he does have one jab. And it's like the only one where he's, when Tom's actually talking to him and tells him that Gale's in on it for the first time. And he's like, oh, didn't you introduce me to Gale? And he's like, yeah, actually, I knew her before you. I knew her for 15 years. Incredible that she did this to me. He's just like, okay.
Yeah. He's just like annoyed by it.
Yeah.
Like, when you have like a quippy Slytherin, right? Like Peter Parker, it's constant. It's fucking constant. He's throwing jabs back over and over and over and over because he's baiting and he's like enjoying it. And Gryffindors are also constantly doing it, like to a point where it gets annoying. Colt's not doing that at all, and he has such an excuse to. These were like your very, very close professional friend, like I guess not friends, but very close
like,
people.
Yeah.
He has every reason to insult them, belittle them, mock them, laugh at them, anything. And he's just like, man, think about what you're doing. This doesn't even make sense. Doesn't make sense.
I hate bringing up the extended edition so much because you haven't seen it, but I was so
good.
amazed. There was another. So again, when he's on the dock, Tom goes off when he's talking about how like he's not saying that he's jealous, but he's obviously jealous of the attention that like the stuntmen are getting or whatever. And he's talking about he's like, there was that Variety article, like the 10 best stuntmen in the business, and you were number one, and blah, blah, blah. And Colt's like, I didn't even do the interview for that article. I didn't take the interview. He's like, what? This is stupid. I will say, too, something we haven't touched on at all that was also a huge thing, and I guess we'll maybe get into it more with Jodie as well and what she is, but their main, like, conflict and what they're upset about. So, like, Jodie lets him know in her way what she's upset about and, like, lets Colt respond, and his responses are all very like when she marries the plot of the film that they're shooting to like their relationship and like uses it as like a metaphor vehicle. And so when she's like, yeah, so the alien and the cowboy love each other, and then it was like a fling, and then the cowboy got hurt and he left and never spoke to the alien again, and she went and had lots of sex, and he's like, I can hit the rock better now. I don't want to hear any more about it. But when they really get into like what the issue is that she called him multiple times after he was injured, wanting to help him, wanting to be with him, and he did not answer, ended up changing his phone number even. That was the point of no contact that he went with her. And he explains that what happened is that so at first he was just injured and his pride was extremely hurt. He talks about that a lot too. And actually that's what he was most mad at Tom about, I think. Not that like he was almost murdered, but that he let Colt think he was the one who fucked himself up and he wasn't. Somebody sabotaged.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
That struck me too.
Yeah.
That's what he's most pissed about.
When he first arrives on set, he's talking to Dan about how like, I almost killed myself in front of the whole crew. Like if I do that kind of thing in front of everyone, parentheses Jodie again, like it's going to be awful, blah 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 blah. And then Tom lets him know later that he was the one that messed with the rig that almost killed him. And so Colt's like, so you almost I didn't almost kill myself. I didn't humiliate myself. But that was the big thing. He was like, I humiliated myself. I'm obviously losing my edge. I'm not a good stuntman anymore. So like that's what he was in at the beginning, where he wasn't calling Jodie, which I think is understandable for literally anybody. But then he was like, I got really into my head where I was like, now that I need to reconnect with her after like a month or so, I have to say the perfect thing and I have to apologize exactly the right way. And then he's like, I spent so much time thinking about the right way to do it that it took too long, and then it was just better to never ever do it, which is so Ravenclaw to me that you're like, well, logically it's taken too long and this won't be received well and I'll never get it right, so I might as well just never speak to this person that means the world to me again.
It's like low-key Rumple of him. Like, that's really Rumpelstiltskin-y. Like, yeah, I know you deserve an apology. I get that. But it's not going to go over well. So really, what's the point? That's the point of an apology, dude. Like, but some things need to be spelled out. I guess. Probably not to an emotionist, but probably to a logicist. I also thought the, like, fight scene at the end in the helicopter was, like, his whole thing where
demeanor is great. The fact that he was counting bullets too is crazy. Like,
thank you. The counting of the fucking bullets. So if a Gryffindor had the wherewithal to do that, right? And I'm like, sure, some of them would. The really experienced fighters like Bucky.
But it's because Deadpool actually had a scene where he counted bullets, but it's because he had only a certain amount and he needed to kill a certain amount of people. So he was counting as he shot people.
Yeah.
He wasn't counting to be safe. He wasn't counting to be safe. Like, when can I pop my head out because there's no bullets left? Like,
it's completely different. And I'm so glad you said that, because you have the two houses now, like, doing the exact same thing in a very different way. And so then what does Wade do every single time he gets a kill shot, or every time, like, he wins a fight or whatever? I'm going to teabag you. I'm going to make it funny. I'm going to say something, like, quippy and fucking mock you. Like, Colt's just like, there's no bullets, Gil.
And he doesn't even yell it. He's not even like, haha. He just goes, no bullets, Gale. Double flips her and falls off the helicopter.
Yeah. And so like the double flipping can strike me as very Gryffindor. Like that's like a super.
But he wasn't doing
Gryffindor
it in like a haha way. He was doing it like, I'm cool as fuck.
Nope. Exactly. It was not to get. It was like for himself.
Yeah.
He's like, well, and
like,
also fuck you for trying to kill me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Task completed. I'm gonna fall into this thing now.
You reminded me too. I was talking to earlier about him like setting up the fight scene or whatever. When he has the gun with the blanks and the bad guy ends up getting the gun or whatever. So he acts like so the guy has the gun on him and shoots him about 6 times, and Colt, incredibly, like he's a stuntman, but he acts like he's been shot and falls to the floor.
Yeah.
But this struck me as Ravenclaw versus Gryffindor too. So you're like, oh, he wasn't really shot. There weren't real bullets. So the guy turns around to make a call and Colt stands up and you're like, a Gryffindor would jump the bad guy, right? Or like take his knees out from under or something. Colt runs away.
Yeah.
He gets away. That was the smartest. This guy was huge. He got away.
Because the strategy he has, I mean, like, so he's got the stuntman
weapon
background.
Yeah.
He's got the like, he uses every single thing that he's good at, like to in the moment, which is really, really hard to do.
Yes.
Like in those high stress combat moments, like he's not a superhero.
At least half choreographed.
He's a guy.
Yeah. Like
he's very, very quick
I say
thinking
half
and
choreographed because you know what should happen. You do have to react to what actually happens, but this is all stuff he's doing not knowing what is going to happen to him. Like the reflexes you have to be able to convincingly look like you've gotten shot after a trigger has been pulled is like crazy.
Also, like, he's just sort of earnest in this sweet kind of Ravenclaw way about everything, because even though he's like winning every fight and he's being strategic and everything he's doing is working out, he's not being cocky about any of it. Mm-hmm. He's just like completing the tasks. And then it's the same with Jodie. So like with the Gryffindor kind of wife guy type thing, you get a lot of the like, oh, you want to kiss me so bad type thing. It's like constantly poking at her like, you love me. You do. He's not doing that to her at all.
No.
He's just like, I'll wait.
He's not, when they're in the car after the Taylor Swift thing and they have their whole initial conversation where she's like, we have to be professional. We can't like be into this whatever. He's like, okay. And then one of the things they did together was donuts. He's like, you want to do donuts? And she's like, no. And he's like, I'll drive you to your car. And she's like, oh, and then he drives her 2 feet to her car. It's like, I'm going to take everything I can get.
Yeah. But he's just being like very respectful of her choices of just like he's very calmly waiting for her. I mean, he's letting her know constantly like, I'm here and this is what I'm here for.
Yeah.
So whenever you're ready.
It's an interesting instance of a Ravenclaw being very aware. He somehow is very aware that he was the fuck up on this end. He's like, you're right. I waited too long and now you're in my face and I want to kiss you. And
I'm trying to think of other Ravenclaws and accountability. I think the further along you get into
the left-siders will be more accountable.
Yeah, because the further you get towards like the crazy Homelander type shit where it's like, nothing's my fault. Nothing's my fault. Yeah, no, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. Like, that's when you start to get into crazy, like you're approaching an emotion. You need to calm down.
Well, the other side's Hufflepuff. Or no, it's Gryffindor.
Yeah, and it's very like...
Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, yeah.
Well, it's sort of just like a... They can. There are certain Ravenclaws like him
Slytherin,
that can just accept when they fucked up, and they can just be. But they're not going to beat themselves up over it, and that's what I really. It's a huge thing I envy about their house because like any minor fuck up, I'm thinking about it all night. I'm like ruminating over this, and it's like they don't have that. And I remember early on in the podcast we used to talk about like the lack of shame.
Yeah.
And I guess it's kind of like that. It's like they're not ashamed of who they are. They're like, I'm a human. Like, I'm capable of fucking up. I don't have to explain that.
I don't think he's ever ashamed of the fact that he didn't speak to her for 18 months. He's like,
no,
I did
not
that.
At all.
And it was a fuck up. He's not like ashamed. Like, because if you're ashamed, you're not showing your face, right? The second he hears that she, like, it may be open to seeing him again, he's like back there.
Yeah. Well, so this is why the Ravenclaws around him, especially, this type of Ravenclaw is not a defensive person. Not a defensive person, not a person who like lacks accountability.
He let her air all of their dirty shit like in front of the entire crew and sat there for it and like took it. He was like, this is a consequence of my action.
She needs to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly. And it goes back to that weird chain of command thing because it's also like a respect of the rules.
Right.
That's another huge Ravenclaw thing. It's like, that's the way it's supposed to go. If I do something bad, I'm supposed to get punished. Like, okay, I can't relate. I can't relate at all. I'm so defensive, and like so many Gryffindors are, and like so emotionally reactive. And this is exactly the kind of Ravenclaw that, like, if I could change myself into a person, I'd love to be this kind of person. I'd love it. It must be so freeing. It must feel so good. Yeah, he's a great character. I love the way he loves her. It's a really respectful,
very
real, true kind of love, and they match each other's freak really well. Really well.
Yeah,
they like talking to each other. They like they like each other. If like the romantic sexual stuff comes, it's secondary. He really likes what she has to say. He really wants to hear her talk about movies and talk about like her job, and they just enjoy each other's company genuinely. And I do think it does speak to the fact, like you said, I think Emily and Ryan are very good friends, and that comes through. Like the chemistry is really good, like friendship wise. It really reads through. It's like these two people that it's like when everyone tells you be friends first, you know, like like when you're dating, like, would you even like them as a friend?
Right.
Like they're a perfect example of that, because they're obviously really good friends first. And that's nice to see in a movie, because sometimes it's like opposites attract, and these people like enemies to lovers, and it's like this whole big drama. It's not. They're besties. It's really cute. I really liked their relationship.
I did too. I really like this movie.
Me too.
Because I think also I love enemies to lovers, but to your point, I think a lot of rom-coms now too are like, oh no, like the guy, like, not that I don't want to say this, like you cannot get me with this man, because like you can, but they're all like sarcastic and like and witty in that like fuck life, fuck the world way. I don't care about love, and like the woman has to break them open or whatever. It's just really nice to see a movie where the guy was like down bad, but not in like a simpy turnoff way. And it was good. They had a good relationship.
I think you need to be a Ravenclaw to pull this kind of character off.
That's
like,
why Down Bad's written about them. So
crossover. I think let's talk about Jodie a little bit, because, you know, she's the one who's invoking all of these emotions in him, and all of this behavior in him.
About Colt for like an hour, so.
Well, you know, he's the main guy. What are you going to do? He's the main character. He's the leading lady.
Extremely fascinating.
Jodie's character could not be. You don't want to follow Jodie like in terms of feeling bad about Colt, because you know it's like going to be hugely emotionally react. It's going to just be like some moments just going to be sad, and justifiably so. Yeah. So, like, if she had been the leading lady in the movie, it would have been a very different tone of the movie, because she's a very different house. And you see her house pretty much in every scene that she's in. So she's hugely a Gryffindor woman, and not always the explosive rage kind of Gryffindor woman, but she does have like key character traits. So he did this shit to her, and you know, how does she lash out? So she tells it through the movie, because the emotions have to come out some way, somehow, or I'm going to die. You know, so like I have to get them out somehow.
And before even that, she was just like not going to let him be on the movie. Like she let him stay because there was literally no option. She was like, get him out of here. Don't want to see him ever again. Bye.
No, and she's right. Like I it's fucked up. Like you can't just not talk. You can't just do that. You can't do that. I feel her on the majority of the emotional stuff in the movie. It's like, that's fucked up. And I was happy she wasn't immediately falling for like because look, he is very honestly earnest and very honestly sweet about it all. But like there are consequences, and I'm glad you're willing to accept them. That's great. But you also have to, you have to go through them.
One of the things I really liked about Jodie too, and I think it's like somewhat Gryffindor, is like she's not very bitter about it. She also has obviously like gotten over it in the sense that she like had reached the point where she was like, I'm never going to see him again. So like I have to continue my life. She's like directing this huge movie. That's her dream. Like she's not like sitting around moping. She's not like man-hatering. Like he didn't show up and she didn't like slap him or any of that stuff. And you can tell she still really likes him. She's so obviously like, he shows up and smiles at her and like fixes her hat. And she's like, stop, you have to stop. I will not. Like, I will not do it. And when she goes to him and tells him, like, we have to be professional, it's because she knows. She's like, I want to do donuts. I am still so into you. and it's just not good. It's just not good for me because you hurt me really badly.
Yeah. So it's like we've talked about that with Gryffindors before, where it's like, okay, so maybe like the friendship or the relationship can't be the same, but we can get over it really fast. Like we can put it somewhere else in our brains and be like, all right, shit happens. Like I understand how you could get to a point where you felt the way you did and you didn't come to me with an apology immediately and you were going through your own thing. Like I think it's really easy for Gryffindors to put themselves in another person's shoes. And sometimes it's to like our own emotional detriment, where like sometimes you should hold a grudge. Sometimes you should demand an apology. Sometimes you should enforce boundaries. But because we're so good at understanding where people are coming from emotionally, it's really easy to let people back in like really quickly, or just sort of let them hammer away at you again to get back to where they were. And you really clearly see that with her character. Like she is trying. She's like, don't touch my hat, don't fix me. So like, don't ask me to do donuts. No. But she wants to. You see it so obvious.
Yeah.
It's like you said, like it's really clear that she wants to.
And it's very
he's a hard person to hold that against because of the way he's acting.
And that's true. Like it may have been different if he'd showed up and like was like, well, so what? I didn't spot you. Like I'm here now, or like that kind of attitude, or was like very uncaring. He's obviously showing up with the realization that there should be an apology. He's like you said, like he knows he fucked up. Maybe he doesn't really understand what that did to her emotionally. I think he does get to understand it though, and it's because she does such a good job. Like, such a healthy Gryffindor. She does a very good job of conveying how it affected her. She is like, I need you to explain to me why you disappeared. And he goes through his whole like waited too long and blah 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 thing. And so it's at that point where she has that explanation that she starts going, why did you think I couldn't help you? Why didn't you want me to like be with you? Like that sort of thing. Like I could have been there for you. I want to be there or I would have wanted to be there for you. Like it's just she's very clear about like her needing to know where he was at, and then her like applying her emotions to him and like making him understand where she's coming from emotionally, because that's less in his lane. He's kind of just like,
but the fact that he like makes the space for like, again, it's like the way he is that allows her the space to do that, because there's no need for like a Gryffindor crash out, right? Like she doesn't need to have the big rage filled moment or like slap him, or she really doesn't have to. Like she does get to let her emotions out later when she beats his ass in the alien suit.
She didn't know it was him,
I'm
though.
sure she didn't know it was him. I'm sure after the fact, maybe she went home and she was like, well, that was nice that I got to kick his ass a little bit. I've kind of wanted to do that for 18 months. But like she doesn't actually need it, because he doesn't evoke those feelings in her. You know, it's different if someone's coming at you in a cocky way or not taking accountability at all, or not a good explanation. Like it opens up a space for her to process and to express healthily. So
yeah. And she
the
does
one big... You go ahead.
I was going to say, she does like hold back from him. Like she does give and then she takes away, right? Like she does that little, when she's telling him what problems she's having with the third act, and he's like, well, maybe you could call me. We could like talk it out, punch it out or whatever. And then she ends up calling him like 5 minutes later, and he's so ecstatic. But she's talking through the movie with him, again, using it as a vehicle to like talk through her feelings. And it gets to the point where, he's like, well, we know the cowboy likes the alien. Does the alien even like the cowboy yet? Let back. And she's like, don't know. Haven't decided yet. She's like, I needed to get all that out, but you're still not, you're still not my good graces.
Yeah. Well, she has to figure it out too. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to have to process. Like I don't know, the whole act of like, if someone comes back and they're definitely apologetic and they really, really want you back, it's got to be tough if they do everything the right way, because you're still harboring these feelings. Like you're still hurt.
Yeah.
So I agree with you that she's a healthy Gryffindor, because the real big like emotional scene that you get from her is it's really karaoke.
Oh yeah, when she thinks he stood her up.
Yeah. So she just sings about it.
Yeah, and she drinks a little.
She drinks a little and she sings about it.
Gail shows up and tells her she's the reason that he's gone, she thinks, and then she gets all like, why didn't you run this through me? Like it's my decision. And like you and she has the Gryffindor gut reaction too, and like the emotional readability when Gail shows up again to tell her that Colt is wanted for murder. She's like, Colt never would have done. He never would murder somebody. I've seen him like save cockroaches. He never would have. And Gail's like, I know that, or at least we thought we knew that. And she's like, no, I know that. Did you tell the police that? She's like, if you just tell the police he's a good person, because I know he's a good person, he won't be wanted for murder.
And she never, ever doubts him for a second. Like, he gets there and he's in the alien suit and whatever. And she's like, why are you here? You need to be burning off your fingerprints. And you need to be crossing the border into another country.
Like,
you need
Tom
to be on the run.
murdered the stunt guy. And he's like, and also Gail's in on it. And she's like, say no more. Like, Gail's like giving her this movie, has like mentored her for years. And she's like, say no more. This lady.
I also didn't think she was doing a very good job of like covering up what she knew, or the fact that like Colt was in the trailer with her.
Or
she wasn't trying.
No, even after that, when Colt gets in the car with Tom and Gail's like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm trying to get some real emotion out of Gail. And Gail's like, there are no cameras. She's like, I'm telling him to blow him up. Like, I don't care.
Because she immediately believed him. That's all that she needed, was for him to tell her like what was going on. And she didn't need any convincing. She just jumped immediately into action. And she's like, again, it's a little bit of the Gryffindor. Like, I don't really see the point in lying about this. Like, I know that we have to put these, like, we have to figure out the puzzle now of how we're going to get the confession out of these people and do that.
Right.
But like, I'm immediately over trying to like convince you or try to be good at this like manipulative shit. Like, no, you're an idiot. You're going to buy what I have to say regardless, because there's no way for you to know that I know that you're in on it. So why am I going to work extra hard to be like, yeah, I totally believe you, Gail. And you're just like, no. Like, she doesn't lay it on too thick.
Right.
She's just like, yeah, you know, you're great, and you've been very helpful, and we need to shoot this scene now. Like, we need to just get it moving. Yeah. It's like all of her reactions are everything, like even the minor ones, just like in conversation with them, where they're talking about movies and like
the
what
Notting
movie
Hill
did he
Pretty
say
Woman
was really romantic to him?
They were talking about
like,
Notting Hill.
Romantic.
No, it's the other way around. She was talking about Notting Hill and how the ending was super romantic. And he was like, well, she could have just ended back up on the streets. We don't know. And she's like, that is not the Julia movie we're talking about.
Yeah. It's a very like Ravenclaw Gryffindor dynamic.
Well,
another
super Ravenclaw Gryffindor dynamic thing that happened is at the end, after she beats him up and like gets the mask off, and he's like, Tom killed whoever, Henry, I think the stunt guy's name was, and she's like, we have to go to the police.
Yeah.
He's like, no, we can't. We have to finish your movie. And she's like, oh. And then she's like,
and
then she's kissing him, and Gail's knocking on the door. He's like, Gail's in on it too. And she's like, that's fine. Let's keep kissing. Like,
he killed me. Put the soap on me to push me through the door. Soap up my stomach to push me through. Like, just take off the fucking alien suit. Not an ounce of Hufflepuff or Slytherin in this pairing. Like, it's very much that dynamic, and I like when I see it because it shows how both houses really do like to observe people, and it's for different reasons. Like for Gryffindor, just for emotional reasons, and for Ravenclaw, like I'm sure for some of them it's for emotional reasons. Like Colt was a very emotional character for her, but they're just very interested in what you're going to do. Like they just like to watch. They like to figure things out. So they're just two people that really like observing each other and being in each other's company. And it makes for a really good love story. Like it makes for a very cute rom-com dynamic. So I like the house combo. I like where they both are in their houses and how they come together. It's very easy to see how they'll very easily like live and die together forever. Like they're not going to have any other issues.
Yeah, now they have a dog that speaks French. And they do donuts. And that's their life.
And they have their spicy margaritas.
Makes movies.
What a great life.
Yeah, right? She makes movies. He's in them until he can't be anymore, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good life.
Honestly, they were doing that, and it's probably just that it's Ryan Gosling, and I'm like, he's a great actor. When they were doing that whole scene where she wanted to do the one shot of the action scene, and that scene is so great too because there's no talking. There's music over it. It's I believe in a thing called love, but you see them interacting, and it's just so not just healthy relationship, but I think it's also like very Gryffindor and Ravenclaw. Like you can see her going to him for like input, and like he's talking to her. There's like one point where he's got a cowboy hat on because he's a space cowboy. She's talking to him, and then she like flips his hat like very flirtily, and then they grin at each. Like it's just very, I don't know. It's great. They're clearly Gryffindor Ravenclaw couple. We've seen those work very well. We've got one in real life here on the podcast. So it depends. You can't have like I don't know. You can't have like a Bucky Barnes with a Donna Noble, probably romantically. Those are two Gryffindors.
Sorry, they're two Gryffindors. I'm
those
just combined two random people. They actually would be great friends. I actually was gonna say Homelander first, and then I was like, let me get away from Homelander.
That would be very straight man, chaotic woman, Bucky and Donna.
It would be.
Yeah.
It would be.
I'm trying to think of a
Yeah, but I'm
Ravenclaw.
just saying there's people that you can't put together
Charlie
in
Kelly
those two
and
houses.
Donna Noble would kill each other.
Oh my God. It can't work, you know? So it's nice when you see positions overlap and work well with each other. There was a time where we couldn't find a single like Ravenclaw Gryffindor duo, and then all of a sudden like Doctor Who happened. And you got like 10 in rows.
I think our biggest problem is still Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw.
Because they're weird.
They are very
it's
strange.
A weird combo.
Very strange.
But always interesting. Always compelling.
We also, media isn't super into doubling up. Like having the same house. Also
but this
very
is sort of what we were talking about,
for
like how what rom-coms have
like a lot
become.
of Friends can be the same, but yeah.
Yeah, because they want to do this whole like opposites attract enemies to lovers very often type of thing. And like sometimes you can be different people, but you don't have to have that kind of animosity to make the relationship work, to make it compelling to watch. Like people aren't watching Hallmark movies because
the plot's good.
These big horrible, you know, it's like it's just, it feels good. Like they just feel good and nice. Sometimes it's nice to just watch two people find their way back to each other.
Hannah and I once watched, there was a sequel too. So it was 2 whole movies. And the biggest conflict of the movie is that the 2 love interests just kept barely missing meeting each other. Like that was the whole movie, that they couldn't connect in person. Like they would be at the same place. Hannah and I were dying. We were like screaming at the TV. Like sometimes stupid shit.
Where does that go? Misunderstandings, I guess.
I don't know. I guess misunderstandings.
Physical misunderstandings. You're just missing each other.
Misplacings. I don't know.
That's cute. Sometimes you just need a cute story, you know. And like this one, they did have actual relationship problems. Don't get me wrong. It's not like a cute Hallmark thing. Like what he did was not nice. But like,
she had a genuine reaction to it and like made him work back for it, right? That was the other thing too. It's very Ravenclaw is very he breaks her camera in his first stunt that he does, and he like, and it's something that I would take offhand as a Slytherin. If somebody said this to me, he's like, "I owe you for the camera," I'd be like, "Oh, okay, like we're past that now," or whatever. The big jump he does at the end. He does it, and then he tells her, "I told you I would pay you back for that camera." Like he like literally was. We've talked about Ravenclaws like keeping score in their head, or like.
Oh my God, you're right. Yeah. You're right. Oh my God, because this is a thing with George too. He can't stand to owe. Like he cannot stand to owe somebody something. Yeah. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like it, even if it's like something real. It's that's kind of Gryffindorish too, isn't it? With like the "give me cookie, got you" cookie. It's a little bit like. What?
But it's more like
don't
emotional.
Do this to me. Now I have to.
Yeah, it's more like emotional.
It's emotional and logical. Yeah, that's why their weirdo sister houses like Slytherin and Hufflepuff are.
Is again a physical vehicle for an emotional reaction.
Yeah. It is. It is.
He's like, why are you mad at me? I gave back. No mad. No more.
Yeah, no mad. No mad. No more. Such a ridiculous house. And so then just sprinkling in a couple of the other characters, Gail, like immediately was like fucking Hufflepuff. Like you don't care at all. She's loyal to Tom.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Although
Tom makes her the money. She produces him and he makes her big money.
Yep. So she makes everything happen for Tom. She's going to make sure he's going to get away with murder however many times he needs to get away with it. And at first you're kind of like, well, okay, so she like, I don't know if I ever thought she liked Tom, but it was very like, it's like annoying sometimes when you see characters that are like that are like, whatever you need. Like I could never do it. And Hufflepuff so easily could play the role of that because the entire time they think you're an idiot. Like she has no respect for him as a person
like
at all.
But the mop bossing this whole thing. Like the lackeys are calling her going, Colt Seavers is gone. Like that's a rep on Colt Seavers. And then she immediately calls Jodie to be like, Colt's dead. I'm so sorry. Like she's out there.
She's making shit work. Even when like Colt is calling Jodie, she like so naturally flips the phone into her drink. Yep. Yeah, it's a very Hufflepuffy. You get a little bit of the loyalty to not to the person, but to the cause, and the cause is her money, and like getting shit done, and not having a very emotional response to like these big things like murder.
I think she's like secluded herself from other people. Like she doesn't really have she doesn't need a community because she's rich, and she like when she's talking to Tom at the beginning or Colt at the beginning, and such a Ravenclaw thing to say. She's like, what's the message of my movies? And he's like, nihilism is a viable worldview. Like, fuck, man.
Right.
But she's like, I guess that's in all my movies, but that no, like,
yeah,
I've got to have the sexy bacon or whatever. So she's like, it's really her community. Like, it's weird that it's not a tangible thing, but she doesn't need a people community because she's rich, and it's almost like her community's intangible. It's these people that she's producing the movies for, right? Like, that's where she's getting
that's a good way to look at it.
Her energy and her like validation is from like her movies doing well and everybody loving Tom.
Because you're working on something that's on such a massive scope.
Right.
Like, you have the world as your audience.
Tom's an asshole, which she agrees to and like says outright, and she's like, in his creepy memento shit, she's like, but none of the public knows that. Like, they love him because they love him. That's all me. Like, so.
Yeah. And you have to be, I really do feel like that's a perfect position for a Hufflepuff to be like it's almost like author level fame and money. It's like the best kind of fame to have. Like, you have your anonymity, but you're also getting credit for everything. Right. Like, it's a very Hufflepuffy
and it's very easy for you to go like, I made you. I can unmake you.
Yeah. I bet a lot of mob bosses are Hufflepuffs.
I will say too, when Rachel said that, I was like, oh, funny that she's not going to Slytherin. But then I was watching the end of the movie when they're in that helicopter, which is a ridiculous fight scene, by the way. And crazy. They're all going after this recording of Tom's confession. And she's just shooting this gun off willy-nilly instead of shooting the fucking recording. I know, the entire time. I was like, shoot Box. Like, that's all that matters if it doesn't exist.
She was getting more angry about him.
I know, she was trying to shoot him. Yeah.
Because there's where the othering came in. She's like, you're just a fucking stunt double. Yeah. These are just fucking
you don't matter. Nobody will care that you're
They
gone.
Don't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she let her rage and the othering take over. And
she does that at the beginning, too, that you don't really... Like, you notice it, but not to the extent of her being like, let's murder you. When she tells him to go look for Tom, she's like, you're just a stuntman. Nobody will notice that you're not on set for a day or two. Yeah. It's like, actually, they will. But, like, the way that she thinks about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Watch out for them Hufflepuffs out there, guys. Watch out for them out there. Sneaky. Very cute, but sneaky. And then Tom, again, I don't know. I have to think about it for a minute. I really didn't think about it at all because he's kind of like a caricature of a he's
a caricature of like a famous Hollywood, like, gets everything he wants.
Yeah, so I didn't take him seriously as a person with like traits and thoughts and anything because he's got Post-its on his wall that's like Momoa or Momoa. Like, he doesn't know how to spell Jason Momoa.
Crying in the bathtub after he killed a man. He's like, what do I do now?
Yeah, but then in these extended cutscenes, just like also willy-nilly, just killing other people too. Yeah. Very immature, like he has a hard time taking accountability for anything. And not my faults, but like in a really weird way. I don't know, because he's such an exaggerated personality. That's always hard.
Yeah.
Really, really exaggerated personalities are
hard.
Don't get
it's
a
almost
lot of
like them either. All you get is the parody.
Yeah. When you have a super exaggerated, like really, really exaggerated one, like what's her name in Just Friends? Samantha? Is it Samantha in Just Friends?
Yeah, but she's
it's real easy to put her like you could put her into Gryffindor, but you see so much of her in the movie.
You
have a lot to pull from.
Story-ish to Samantha. You get a lot more of Samantha than you do of Tom. I'll say that. Yeah. Like, Tom is there to be the villain. He's murdery.
I guess the one moment that gave me pause with him, because it confuses me, is he's so like cool with killing Colt on the boat dock. And he's like, whatever, now you die. Oh, right. And then in the helicopter, he pauses.
I think it's
what was that?
I think it's because he would have been directly, like he was there and would see the gun. Like, he walked away. He didn't see Colt getting gasoline poured on him. And then, and I guess in the extended scene, he says, like, so what happens the way that they're killed? It's not like they're murdered in front. Somebody comes and like throws a plastic bag over their head, and then they start suffocating. They drag them away, and then you like hear the gunshot. So he's not like directly involved.
So he doesn't have the guts to do it himself.
You see him lose it when he accidentally kills Henry. Like, he's in the bathtub,
right,
fully clothed, like sobbing, curled up in the fetal position, calling Gail. Like,
yeah, I don't know where to put him. I don't know
that I could either.
He's a silly guy.
Having thought about it.
Yeah, we'll let you guys decide when you watch it. When you watch
because you will watch
put special focus on him,
on Tom,
and let us know where you put him because it's worth 2 hours of your life.
Oh God, yeah,
it is gorgeous.
Did not realize
what a beautiful man.
He was in MCU. He's what's his name? Wanda's brother.
Wanda's sister.
Pietro.
Wanda's brother.
Pietro. I forget his superhero name. Quicksilver. There it is.
The Flash.
No, it's Quicksilver. Miriam said that last night. She was like, is that Quicksilver? And I was like, no, because it's Evans Peters. And then I was like, oh, wait, do you mean X-Men or MCU?
It's Kick-Ass. He's also Kick-Ass.
Aaron Taylor Johnson or Evan Peters?
Have you seen Bullet Train? Aaron Taylor Johnson.
No, I haven't. I've heard of it. I know what it's about.
So good in that.
Really?
It's beautiful.
See, the thing, so Evan Peters is famous for Scream Queens and dating
American Horror Story.
He wasn't on Scream Queens. The girlfriend who abused him,
Emma Roberts
was on it. But I know him from the movie Sleepover with Alexis Hall and Stephen Colbert. That's where,
of course,
that's where he became famous. So.
Yeah, he's actually also in Kick-Ass.
Yeah,
with Aaron Taylor Johnson.
That's why I was like, which one do you mean? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
He's just like got 3 lines,
right?
But yeah,
both of the MCU, I guess, since he's also in WandaVision. So
yeah,
when she's going crazy,
cool. Cool overlaps here. Yeah, well, go watch Fall Guy if you haven't yet. It's free on Peacock. And just like if you need something to do tonight, like with your friends, you want to watch something, you're just like hanging out, having a chill night at home.
Do it.
It's so good to throw on. You'll laugh the whole way through. It's really funny. I'm sorry if we spoiled things for you.
Oh yeah,
but like it's kind of clear that it's not going to be an unhappy ending.
This if you were worried about being spoiled.
Yeah, weird. You're weird.
Oh.
Really good movie. And I hope so on our next episode, we're going to be sorting the idea of you with Anne Hathaway and I don't know that actor's name.
The red, white, and white, royal blue guy?
Yeah,
Nicholas,
Harry Styles.
Nicholas. No. That's not the right one. It's the other floppy haired one.
I don't know this name.
It's not the red, white, and royal blue guy, no.
He is. Yes, he is.
He's in that. Nicholas Gosling.
He's the brunette. No, he's the blonde.
Oh, so not. No, I'm thinking about the black haired one.
Yeah. No, he's the blonde guy, but it's confusing because in the idea of you, he's brunette.
He is brunette in the idea of you. He's got floppy brown hair.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's Harry Styles.
And he has
So we're going to be doing that next, and I kind of love when we do the movies because it's like when it's a good one, it really grabs you and it's really entertaining. It's really a nice feeling to not have to know more things about it. And then the fun facts come with it. So for the idea of you, it's based on fanfic, which we'll talk about in 2 weeks. But I just I like the feel-good movies. I do. I enjoy them. I hope that Hollywood will be doing it more.
It is Nicholas Galzanine. I can never say his last name.
Congrats.
My friend Steph is obsessed with him. Sorry to interrupt you. I was looking up what his name was.
Nah, I'm just talking to myself.
Talking about how you love movies.
How I like movies.
Yeah,
I do.
Good movies.
There was a time in my life where my older brother was a huge DVD movie collector of shows, movies, everything. And he used to have these. Do you remember the the
stands?
He had the stands,
binders.
But he also had the folder, the binders full.
Yeah. My dad still has those.
He had hundreds of them, stacked up on bookcases because he didn't read books. He watched movies. That was his thing. And I used to just go into his room and just movie after movie after movie. I've seen so many random weird movies in this, probably contributes to Gryffindor pop culture thing. I was obsessed at one time with just watching shows and movies my whole life.
Stuck in motels, just watching random ass shit on TV.
That's what you do when your family sucks. And yeah, so I miss the time where you could just this is a new movie coming out with these actors and it's be really good, and it just and of course they have that, but it's so much like Dune and a franchise after franchise, and I'm I don't want to invest. I just want to be entertained for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So love Fall Guy for that, and I really do think we'll enjoy the idea of you. So I'm looking forward to watching that. So that's when we'll see you next.
Yay!
And this is where we leave you, fellow travelers.
Thanks for listening to us.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Sort of Brilliant. If our sorting choices inspired any rage or excitement, we'd love to hear from you. We're open to feedback, suggestions for characters to sort, and solid counter-arguments with citations.
Never forget your citations. You can find us hanging out on Twitter and Instagram at SOB_pod or shoot us an email at sortofbrilliant@gmail.com.
And since we're not above begging, please rate and subscribe to Sort of Brilliant on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. Please share our posts on social media. And if you're a Gryffindor, maybe you'll inspire sorting fights among your own friend group.
The theme music is Hot Shot by Scott Holmes. Can't wait to sort with you again next time. Bye!